everyone, it's Steph from Hilltop View Journals. Welcome to my channel and welcome to the Crafting a Garden Story collaboration. I did do this video that you're going to see now as part of my Delightful Daffodils Rustic journal tutorial, but I ran out of time in terms of trying to keep the video to a manageable size and length, so I've split this off and I thought I would do this separately. I think I do refer to parts of the tutorial for this journal cover as the Delightful Daffodils #1 idea, but I will put a link up now for the other tutorials so that you can see what else I did as part of the collaboration. It's a really simple journal insert and I've covered it with some napkins and fabric and then added elements from the kit. So I really hope you enjoy this tutorial. It's a pretty quick one. It's a really easy technique. It's nothing new, but it's a lot of fun and I think you can use it as part of your Crafting a Garden Story journal. I hope you enjoy. See you soon. And on with the show. I'm going to cover one of my Traveller's inserts, which I use every day. I'm going to cover them with one of these lovely napkins. So I'll put a link in my description box on where I purchased these. They were available on eBay and Etsy, but I'll put the links in so you can have a look at the sellers. And what I've got is a cereal bag or cereal liner. So you want to find something that you're going to be able to peel off the fabric once it's dry. You can use any type of plastic, really. If you've got a flexible art mat, that will work. But something that's got this. Parchment paper, baking paper, freezer paper will probably work just as well. I've got this really naff piece of fabric. It's really thin. If you're going to cover something that's got writing or some marks on there that you don't want to see, then I would suggest you use something like a really nice heavy cotton fabric. But this is an old cheap pillowcase and it's got that sort of, I don't know, mix of viscose or polyester or something. But it should work absolutely fine. Got a little pot, got some water here. I've got my trusty glue brush. You need a brush that's fairly wide and soft bristles, not too hard bristles. Excuse me, sorry. I quite often use this for my gluing, but I'd say that the bristles are a little bit too hard. This is just like a standard household brush. So go for something that's quite soft. And I've got some really cheap PVA. This is great actually, Artway. It'll be on my Amazon wish list if you want to have a look at the product on Amazon. Yeah, and it just goes on for days and days, well, months and months. It's really good. I really like it. So what I'm going to do, I think it's 2 parts glue, 1 part water is the mixture, but really I'm just going to chuck some in and then put some water in and get the consistency that I want. And this is going to be quite noisy, so I'll probably just speed through this bit. So you can see this is really thick. It's really good PVA. And it means it lasts for ages because you need to water it down to use it for probably most of your craft projects. So I've just got a bottle here and I'm just going to squeeze it in. And take your time doing this because you don't want to over dilute it and then have to add more glue. So less is best. And what you want to do is get a nice creamy mixture. So I'll just mix this in now to get the desired consistency. So it is quite difficult to tell you the exact amount of glue to water you need because it does depend on the thickness of your PVA. So I added quite a bit of water to that and you can see now the consistency I've got, and I would say that's about right. It's a bit like double cream, I'd say, or heavy cream in the US. So there we are. So that's the consistency. And let's pop that to one side. So the first thing you do is you put a nice layer of glue onto your plastic sheet. Excuse me, sorry. And I think between mixing the glue and painting the glue on the page, I find this really therapeutic. It's just like, oh yeah, I can just relax now, stir the glue, paint the glue, and yeah, it's quite nice. I quite like doing this as a mass make. So if you've got some napkins that you love, then you can do a few of these sheets. Because it takes over 24 hours. I probably forgot to say that, didn't I, at the beginning of this video. I'll try and remember and put a note when I start talking, when I edit. Just get rid of that little piece there. So what you need to do now is pop this on your cereal bag and smooth it out. So I'm actually going to do that again because I've gone a bit too far. Oh, this is really, really cheap and nasty material. But it'll do the trick for what I want to cover my journal with. Okay, so if I put my journal on here now, you can see I've got plenty of space. And what you could do as well is if you make it even bigger, you could then make some tags and pockets and all sorts out of it. But it's a bit difficult for me to show it on the screen the bigger it gets. So I'm just going to limit myself. So you put another layer of glue. So you do need quite a bit of glue. And it'd be worthwhile you mixing the glue up in a pot that's got a top on, which obviously mine hasn't. And I haven't got any spare tops to these creme fraiche pots because I chucked them in my craft cleanup at Christmas time because obviously I didn't need them. So when you're mixing, be sure to get rid of any lumps, and yeah, just take your time really and enjoy the process, because this is all part of it, isn't it? It's not just the finished article, it's preparing the materials that you're going to use and getting to know the glue, getting to use what you've purchased, which is always a benefit, isn't it? Because how many of us have bought stuff on Amazon because we've watched a YouTube video, it arrives, you tuck it away somewhere, and by the time you find it again, you've forgotten why you bought it. And that's pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to layer the first piece of napkin and see where I am with it. Now these napkins are opposite in terms of orientation. So I think what I'll do, to avoid freaking out people who can't cope with different orientations, is I'm just off camera here, I'm just cutting it in half. What you could do actually is cut it into four. Maybe I'll do that because it'll be easier to manage as you put it on top of the glue. So we'll do that, we'll cut it into four. Of course, there's nothing wrong with just putting the whole napkin down, and some napkins have got the same orientation over the whole sheet, so you won't have that problem. But if it is something that bothers you, then this is the way to get around it. And excuse me, what you do then is you very gently paint your glue on top. This takes a bit of concentration for me because I'm so heavy-handed, so to do this gently is a bit of an effort, because I like to just slap it on and move on to the next thing. But I'm trying to be intentional and present in what I'm doing. couple of things to note. So you can see I've done a rip there. So I'm going to smooth that down and cover it in a bit. And the other thing, because I've cut this into 4, you may want to think about which parts you put where, because I've got this sort of odd flower thing going on there. Again, I don't get bothered by things like that because, I don't know, it just doesn't bother me. But if it does bother you, then just be a little bit more mindful about the 4 pieces that go together, a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. You might want to cut it off so that the daffodil joins to the end of another daffodil. Just think about things like that. So I've got 2 things to fix here. I've got a bit of a gap going on there, and then I've got a rip there. So I'm going to use the spare bits I've got on the bottom here. So I'm just going to chop them off gently. So that's the first stage of that. I'm going to put it to one side now and move on to something else, and then we'll come back and finish covering my journal. So I'm going to do the inside of the journal now. You could make your tissue so that the napkin cover so that it comes to here, so it just wraps all the way around, and that does look really nice. But for this type of booklet, it'll bulk it out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to either just do a panel here or go all the way across and do the same on the back. I'm tempted to go all the way across because it will actually strengthen the spine a little bit, and I know I'll lose a page of writing, but that doesn't really matter, because what it'll do is it'll give me a nice little background to add something to this, and I may do some collage or something with the daffodils. So these little booklets you can purchase, they're pretty much matching UK's A4 landscape. If it didn't, then what I would probably do is I would put strips on either side or some washi or something, and then put a whole large strip in the middle and not be too bothered about it. But I think what I'll do is I will cover this completely. I'll just have to be careful when it's folded. That's the only downside of this. So let's you definitely want to do this before you put your cover on, because you may end up with some messy glue bits on one side. And what I did there was I've really dragged it up. I'm sort of manipulating the paper. Okay, so you can see now it's pushed itself right into the edge there. Might need to if you do end up ripping that, then add some washi tape or some fabric and don't stress about it. I'll probably end up putting something thin there anyway to strengthen it again. Okay, I'm going to do the other side now. So I'm going to lay this now under some heavy books and leave it under there for the same amount of time as I'm going to leave my napkin fabric, and then come back and cover the journal. So it's been 24 hours and all I've done whilst I've been off camera is to just trim around this side and this side, and you'll see that when you include the last page and the first page of the book, you lose a little bit of edging there, because it's sort of pushing it over. So if that bothers you when you open it, then you could put some lace there. I'm not too sure what I want to put there yet, because I may put some pockets and things which would cover that anyway. But you can see it's probably more pronounced on this side, but it's not splitting or anything. And so if you print on good quality paper, I think this is 120 GSM, so it's above your copier paper grade. I think you'll be all right. Of course, you could always put some fabric on there, which would make it even more durable, but I'm quite pleased with that. I think it looks nice, and it sets the scene for the journal. I just got to remember now to keep it in the upright position, because this has got orientation in the pattern. Okay, so this is ready. So what I'm going to do is gently peel it off the cereal box. Now, bear in mind as well that I used really cheap fabric, so it's a little bit translucent, which may be fine for the project you're using. You might actually like that. And because there's a lot of white in the background of these napkins, it does make a difference. If you were using an all patterned one, like, say, for instance, like this one, which is absolutely gorgeous, it would probably you wouldn't sort of see the colour of the fabric so much. So be considerate, I guess, when you're using fabric. I think you would be better off using something that's got a lot more robustness to it than this cheap piece of fabric. But this is only going on a traveller's notebook insert, so I'm not bothered. What I am wondering though is whether I want to paint this cover. I don't really want to, but I may have to see what it looks like. Oh, I don't think that's going to make a difference, is it, if I don't paint it? So you can see the line there, but I'm going to be putting something on the front of it. So that is something to consider if you do this 4 square option. But if you don't do the 4 square option, like this, let's have a look at this now. Then you'd get some peacocks upside down, wouldn't you? So, yeah, what bothers you the most, I reckon? That's the decision you've got to make when you do this. Okay, so now I've got to decide where I want to put this. I'd like to do it so that I make the most out of this, and then I've still got some left over to play with, rather than put it in the middle. And I don't think that's too bad, actually. I'd rather cut it so I've got more to play with, definitely. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to trim this edge off gently. And I'm not going to sew this because I'm a bit worried about putting it through my sewing machine with the amount of glue that's on it. It's quite sort of plasticky, so I'm not sure my sewing machine will cope with it. Okay, but what I am going to do is I definitely going to put some kind of lace around the edge. Oh, I really like the back, actually. It's really pretty. There you go. So I'm quite happy with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use glue stick to keep it in place. And then I'm going to use my glue gun. You could use Fabric-Tac would work really well actually. And look what I've done. I've done it upside down. Check me out. Told you, didn't I? I told you to tell me. It's too late now. Hilarious. Right. Cracking. Right, I'm gonna ink around here. Should have been screaming at me as I was gluing it on. Check the orientation. So the next thing we need to do now is put some kind of topper on it, and we'll have this little journal finished. I want to keep the front of this simple because I really do like the daffodil napkin pattern on there, and it is a signature as well. It's a signature cover rather than a journal cover. So yeah, I don't want to put too much fuss on there. So what I've got is, you have to excuse my messy fingers, but I've got a small book plate which I've just printed the words morning pages on one of the backing sheets, and I've just stuck that on there. So I'm just going to glue that on, and I've used a bit of metallic gilding polish just to give a bit of a gold shimmer. And then I got some pieces of fabric here. I've just got some tea stained cotton, a little bit of sari silk, and then I've got this faux rice paper, and I'll link the video to Nigezza Creates on how to make this. It also doubles up as some really old looking sellotape, which is really quite cool. So I'm just going to put that on there, and then I've used one of Angela's labels, and I've mounted it on some chipboard, and then done a messy bit of gilding polish on that as well, so it's quite rusticy looking. So I'm just going to glue these down as central as I can, really simply with my glue gun. I would have liked to have sewn it, but my sewing machine is still out of action, unfortunately. So I'm not going to worry too much about bleed through because the label will go over this. So I just want to secure those in place first. Put a nice dollop of glue on here. So that is my delightful daffodils journal cover idea number 1. Just before I wrap up the video, I wanted to come back on because I have done a little bit of work to this journal since I did the collaboration video, which I didn't upload, which by the time you've watched this, you'll realise why I didn't upload the video. I took the plaque off there because I just didn't think it needed it. It just made it too heavy looking. So that came off, and thankfully it didn't do any damage. This is pretty sturdy cover, so if you're looking for something that's really hardy, then this is a great technique to use for a journal cover. I also added a belly band. I don't think I had this in the video. It is up on Instagram though, a process video of this, and there's a little doodle there, and I just made a couple of journaling cards to fit in there. and you will see that yes, this is still upside down, and I've decided to just go with it. The back is also upside down, but you can't really tell on this one, but I'm not going to bother with the pocket. I'm just going to leave it blank. I've almost finished writing in this now, so yep, this will be shortly going in a larger journal cover, which I haven't planned out yet. But before I finish, I just wanted to do a closure. It's going to be a really simple closure, and I'm just going to do a small hole. I think I probably will measure this actually. Yeah, shock horror. I'm gonna measure, guys. 21, so we need 10 and a half, so it's about there. Can I see that? Yep. Okay, so let's make sure it doesn't go through anything. It's looking all right. I'm gonna pop that in there. Okay, and wiggle one of these eyelets in. I've been meaning to do this for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's not quite big enough. I'm just gonna come on, in you go. The bigger setting on this crocodile, the 316 one, is too big for these eyelets, but then the smaller one is too small for them, so that'll teach me for not buying the We Are. Is this a We Are Memory Keepers? I don't know actually. Somebody will comment about it. Somebody will be in the know, I am sure. Okay, so let's do this one as well. Ten and a half. How many times do you put a mark on a bit of paper and when you get to it you can't find it? I bet that's the wrong one now as well. If it is, we'll pretend that it's not. So come on, in you go. Come on. There we go. I think it looks the same. We're all right. We're okay. So I'm just going to do really, really simple tie. Keeping with the rustic vibe. Just pop it in the back. Loop it round. In through the back. And loop it round. And there we have it. I probably could make those a little bit smaller, perhaps. There we go. Keep that in my scrap pile. And there we have a nice little traveller's notebook insert journal cover. Nice hardy. This will really keep it safe and protected, and of course it's part of my delightful Daffodils collaboration. And I really do hope you've been enjoying Crafting a Garden Story with all the amazing artists that have joined RachandBella Crafts and Angela Kerr for this collaboration. Make sure you keep that journal jigsaw hashtag saved in your history for searches, because you can always come back to these tutorials and just do some mass makes and just follow the amazing artists that have given up their time for us to learn all these wonderful techniques. Please like and subscribe, and also leave a comment if you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks very much.